What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pure EVil MMA. I'm your host, as always, Evil Eddie from MyMMAnews.com. We got a special guest joining us again for another Khabib pay-per-view. He joined us last time for, what was it, UFC? I forgot which one it was, but it was at the Barclays Center. Ali Quinta ended up filling in. It was just madness throughout the day. We broadcasted live from the Barclays Center, and Rodney joined us then. And here he is a couple of months later joining us for UFC 229 recap, where we're going to be reliving all the highs and lows, the good, the bad, the ugly, and all that. And Rodney, you were actually there last night, so
Yes.
what was the feeling like when you first got there? Did it feel like a Conor McGregor pay-per-view?
Yeah, it was insane, man. I was just thinking, everything was so surreal, man. This whole week, I've been to all the events. I was at the open workouts. I was at the press conference. I was at the weigh-ins. I mean, you name it. And yeah, man, it's been crazy. I don't, as a Las Vegas local, I don't get down to the Strip too often because it's a tourist trap. And I mean, you know how it is. It's just not one of those things you want to spend a lot of your time and your money doing. However, this week was special. This week was different. And yeah, the Irish were out in force. The Russians were not. People have predicted that for years. They've said that, that's going to be the case. Khabib's going to have all these, Russians come out of the woodwork to support. Not necessarily here. Maybe over there they are, but not here. Anyway, when I got there with my wife, I realized I turned to her. I said, "Man, you know what? Of all the UFC fights I've been to, of all the ones I've covered live, as a reporter, I've never actually seen Conor McGregor fight live. This is the first time, so it was nuts. It was madness."
And we've seen you at a whole bunch of pressers. You're usually on the pressers getting to ask questions. Were you able to do that this time around? I didn't catch you.
No, not at all, man. Not at all. I haven't talked about it too much publicly, but I don't mind doing so. It's just nobody ever really asked or gets brought up. As you know, if you saw me last weekend, I was at Bellator 206. I've been at every Bellator fight in California this year, covering the fights live. They're great to me. For right now, for some reason, my previous outlet that I was with, MMA Latest, kind of dissolved, and then the UFC press credentials sort of went with it. So as you know, I have MMAsoldier.net, but I just launched this year, so we're still building. But I'm getting a lot of momentum, and I'm way ahead of my projections. And as you know, if you see my content, I have so much access to UFC fighters, to Bellator fighters. I've been to the UFC PI 5 times this year, and just working on getting back in there. But no, I wasn't able to cover it as I'm doing smash mouth journalism. I just crashed the party. As the great Zach De La Roca from Rage Against the Machine once said, we don't need the key, we'll break in. That's what we MMA soldier on the front lines and in the trenches.
Well, the first time I ever even noticed you was actually at a press conference where the camera went on you. You had some real hardcore questions. Like, there's one thing about these UFC, and I don't mean to bash media at all, but I feel like there's so many questions that could be asked, and they always focus on like rookie journalism questions when they're at these things. And you get right to the point. You get the questions that people actually want to hear.
Thank you. And I think that might have been one of the things I did to kind of maybe rub UFC the wrong way, the PR team. And like I said, I'm working on fixing that, man, because that was not my intent. I mean, I'm certainly not. I'm definitely not a clickbait freaking trash MMA media outlet. I'm all about integrity. I just started grad school actually a few weeks ago at UNLV, so I'm going to grad school for journalism. I am a professional. I'm an expert on this sport, and I deserve to be treated as such. And I thank you for saying that, though, because I got a lot of positive feedback from the pressers that I've been at, from the fans. Like the first time I went, Reddit was blowing up, man. People were like, "Oh, that John Cena lookalike dude."
Yeah, that's what I thought when I first saw you too.
Yeah, of course. For those of you all tuning in now, I'm growing the beard out, so I don't have the John Cena look going, but when I'm clean shaven. Anyway. I wanted to say before we kicked off here, I don't know if I just wanted to make a toast to a fallen comrade. Now, as they say, as a journalist, you're not supposed to be, you can't be biased, and I'm really not. But at the end of the day, this is cage fighting, and I've never said that, hey, I'm just a pure journalist. I'm not one of these guys who has delusions of grandeur like many people do, who think they're going to be the next great sports broadcaster that's born through MMA. That's not how it works.
Cookie cutter
MMA,
journalism. It's the cookie cutter journalism.
Yes, this is smash mouth journalism,
Mm-hmm.
what we do, and I agree with you that there's a lot of that other garbage in, garbage out, and I'm not part of that. But like I said, I do have my integrity. At the same time, and I love Khabib. Don't get me wrong, but as with the Irish blood that flows through my veins and my soul, I do have to give a proper shout out to a fallen comrade. And you know what? A lot of people are talking trash as expected. I pay no attention to that because here's the thing, man. For one thing, I've never fought on that level, but I have fought in the cage 3 times. I've only lost once, and I know what it feels like to get in there and give everything and come up short. So nothing but respect to these guys. And so to a fallen comrade who's going to be back, he comes in every time. So hold on, man. The wifey's calling. Hey, it's the financier for MMA Soldier joining us. I'm on a call with my friend, buddy. I got to let you go, okay? All right. I love you and good night. And Mama, I'll call you back.
Okay, say good night, Daddy. Good night, Daddy. Bye.
Gotta
I'm teaching
love,
him, man.
gotta love the live streaming. Like, I love little moments like that.
Yeah, dude. I brought him on. I had Aljamain Sterling is my son's favorite fighter. I brought Austin in and let him Aljamain talk to him for a minute one time. It was super cool, man. So anyway, what else you got, brother? Man, it's good to see you. It's been a while, dude. Do you have anything to match me with here? I got the proper 12.
I got my coffee. So you know what? Let's take this cheers, and then let's jump right into the meat and potatoes of what people want to hear. So here, cheers to Rodney. Cheers to.
We'll start with the whiskey and coffee, and we'll get into the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, there we go. Listen, before we even start, I mean, last night I got toasted. I was ready for this pay-per-view. Like, throughout our lives, like as adults, there's very little things that we can get excited for. When Conor McGregor has a pay-per-view, it's like you come to life. And last night was just one of those moments where it just felt like, I don't know, it's just like at the edge of your seat, like you really feel alive when Conor McGregor fights. But I must say this about the whole main event. It did not feel like Conor McGregor got his moment to really shine. I was expecting a little bit more from Conor in the fight. What was your thought in that very first round? Let's start with the first round. What were you seeing there?
Yeah, the very first round, you knew what Khabib was going to try to do, and I was certainly confident that Conor had been working really hard to prevent that because you knew that's what he was going to do, and man, I mean, he just went right to it. And fuck, dude, we've seen him do that with so many people, but we also know, let's be honest, man, Conor is special, and his takedown defense is so underrated. Like, people say, his takedown defense is shit, and those people are idiots. I mean, I'll be honest. But when he took him down so easily, I was like, oh, shit, it's going to be a long night for Conor here, man. But, again, nothing but respect for Khabib. That's what he came to do, and a lot of questions were answered. Now, I know we're talking about the first round. If I could just jump ahead, though, to the next. Bro, the thing that really surprised me was, I mean, he didn't outstrike Conor overall, but he did drop him, and that was a big shocker. That was a big shocker. And, Conor could just never get going. At round three, he looked good. Round 3, he won, on the scorecards. On my scorecard, I thought he won, but I thought the judges that scored 10-9 and then 10-8 in the second for Khabib, I thought they had that right. I mean, it was almost stopped in the second. Let's be real. I mean, Conor took a beating, and he has so much heart. We've seen him take a beating before from Chad Mendez with those elbows, but Khabib is the best ground and pounder probably there's ever been.
And Khabib is also a bigger lightweight where Chad was a smaller featherweight.
Yeah. Khabib is just a monster. Like, some people just know how to ground and pound because there's an art to it. It's not just laying on a guy and just and just throwing. Now, I will say Conor did a great job in stifling him. However, I was reading today, apparently, because I didn't have the commentary in my ear, and I was in the venue, so I didn't realize, I guess, Conor was hooking the glove and doing some other like little shortcuts trying to stall. But from my vantage point, I was like, well, he's avoiding damage for the most part. But there was that time in the second round when Khabib had a flurry that was very close to ending the fight. And you had to think, if this does get back to the feet, if it makes it to the next round, Connor's got to be rocked, man. How could you not? You've been out of the sport for too damn long, man.
Did you? Here's the thing that kind of after the fight, I was thinking, I was like, you know what? Now that we had a minute to digest it and just kind of react to what happened, we know the outcome. I was looking back and I was like, man, I gotta have a lot of respect for Khabib Nurmagomedov, because the big talk was, is he going to be able to make weight? Is Conor going to be able to get in his head? First off, no. Khabib knew exactly what Conor's plan was. We've seen it time and time again. Conor's really good at promoting fights. Khabib did a really good job, even though at the presser he seemed irritable. He left after 15 minutes. He was like, screw that, dude. I'm the champ. This is about me. He ended up leaving. I know it rubbed people the wrong way. But then, Conor showed up drunk, which was really surprising. I know he's got the whiskey out, but this is a fight camp. Like, that kind of surprised me that he came up.
Yeah.
Do you think that had to play into it? It's poison. You're getting ready for a fight. How serious were you taking it if you're sitting there drunk? While Khabib was stone cold serious, even first to the way in. Like, it was just wow.
Dude, let me tell you, man, you're so spot on with that, because I remember thinking similar to Ronda, for example, when she lost to Holly. I felt like, man, is she taking on too much? Is this too much for her to be trying to tackle and then go into this huge fight? And I thought the same thing. I was like, man, Conor was there to basically make a whiskey commercial.
Yeah.
And he made a great commercial for the fight too, but it kind of made you wonder, is his mind, is his head really in it? And don't get me wrong, like this whole fight, I don't like making predictions, but this is one that I was like, either Khabib's going to do what he did, or Conor's going to sleep him. But again, another thing that was very telling and very surprising to me, which answered a lot of questions, was how well Khabib was able to deal with Conor striking. Because in the third round, Conor landed some good shots. Maybe didn't quite have the pop in them that he would have had he not spent the first 2 rounds on his back getting beat up. So I don't know, man. Conor has been pretty silent ever since. He tweeted that he wants a rematch. We saw what happened with Nate Diaz. He went back and he just had a fire under him, and he corrected all the mistakes that he made, and he came back and won. But I would like to see a rematch. However, I think if that happens, I think it's going to be kind of like Rose and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I think it's going to be the second time around. It's just going to be more of the same. Like, maybe Conor won't get beaten as bad. Maybe it'll go to the distance. But I think he'd get beaten again. I think Khabib's best next opponent is Tony. There's no question about that.
And we're going to jump into that in just a second, because that was my pick for fight of the night. And just the coaching style after that fight, which we're going to get into that in a second. But let's talk about what other people are talking about. After the fight unraveled, there was a lot of drama. People saying that Khabib set the sport back 20 years. For people that didn't watch the fight, and I don't know where you're living, maybe under a rock, but after the fight, usually fighters go at peace. They shake hands. Not this time. What did you see? Because you were in the stands. You were in the crowd. What did you see? What did you think was going on in those moments after the fight when he jumped the cage?
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, so sitting there, like, I was a little inebriated. I had quite a bit of the proper, and I went as a fan. I went as a fan. I told you I didn't get a press pass, so I went to all the events this week, but I got surprised at the last minute by we just checked in with her, Captain Jean Story, my wife, and I got surprised, and I got tickets to the fight. Now, I was there enjoying it, and lo and behold, the biggest fight in UFC history turned into the biggest debacle, and now it's the biggest story, and the story has nothing to do with the fight. There's very little talk about the actual fight. That you and I probably did more talk about the actual fight than anybody else has. But when it happened, I was a little late getting to my camera, to my phone to get video. And I was kind of kicking myself in the ass, because at first I was just in shock. I was like, well, what the hell's going on? Holy shit. I'm watching it. I'm watching it happen. And I was like, shit, I got to get the camera. What am I doing? And then once I was able to kind of see some of the content that some of my buddies from Flow Combat were able to get, that were there covering the event, to see some of the other fan videos that got posted online and et cetera, and kind of digest everything, I was like, wow, man, this is a fucking crazy situation. I got a hot take for you, though.
Okay.
I liked it. I mean, I didn't like Khabib's boys jumping in there and triple teaming on Conor. I thought that was a bitch move. You know what I mean? But as far as, Khabib jumping and attacking Dylan Dennis, fuck him, fuck the social justice warriors and fuck the talk about setting the sport back. Yes, it was unacceptable. It was inappropriate, but it was gangster, and I fucking respect it.
The clip of Khabib literally jumping out, throwing his foot at Dylan Dennis, just like, oh my God.
The Matrix. Yeah.
That was so good.
Listen, I get it, man. These guys are crazy as fuck. They're from Dagestan. For those of you who don't know your geography, that's the Caspian Sea, the Balkans, the middle of nowhere, Russia. I mean, these dudes are crazy as fuck, and they're hardcore in their beliefs. They're very passionate about their convictions, and I'm a little ghetto myself. So I mean, in the right or wrong situation, I'm liable to start throwing hands too, man, and regardless of consequences. And so I understand that. Again, is it bad for the sport? Probably, but in the long run, I don't know. I mean, look, they use Conor's Brooklyn melee to promote this fight, for fuck's sake. I mean, it's almost like you're rewarding the behavior, and he got a slap on the wrist. If you or I did that, that's the one you were at. You were just talking about that. I mean, if you or I did that, we would still be in jail. I mean, we would be in jail. It would have been much, much worse. Conor got a ridiculous fine. I mean, what was it, like $500 or some shit?
Something crazy in like a couple hours of community service.
And a very, very small fine. I mean, so anyhow.
Here's the thing, Rodney. Like, leading up to all this, you're talking about how Conor gets by on, he got away with that. And people don't realize, like, how it really affected Rose Namajunas, how it affected Mike. Like, people on the bus were actually, like, a little shooken up after that. And Conor McGregor, this past year, this entire year, has just been, I know that he's got a child and that he was just fighting with Mayweather, but it just seems like he's gotten too big-headed in a way. And I love Conor. I'm a Conor fan. Trust me. But what he pulled at Bellator, jumping the cage at Bellator, getting, all these little antics, going into the bar in Dublin and punching some guy and leaving earlier this year, the whole bus incident, it just seems like it's just out of control. And now that he has this loss, it makes you wonder, did Conor lose any brownie points? Is he going to still be able to get away with this stuff? Because he's not winning every fight now. So I don't know. How do you feel about that? Conor can't continue doing this, acting this way, because last night, Khabib really put him in his place, in my opinion. I think a lot of people felt happy that he did that. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's similar to, I mean, I mentioned Ronda Rousey earlier, but I mean, obviously she didn't do any kind of crazy stuff like that. But there were a lot of things with Ronda Rousey, like her bullying the ring girls and those poor little girls. They don't fight. I mean, and bullying Paige Van Zandt, just being a really, really mean and nasty person to Misha Tate, and I've met Misha several times. She's a Vegas local. She trains at, my gym at Extreme Couture, and she's just a sweetheart. It's just as nice as can be, especially for somebody at her level. And I think a lot of people were kind of just ready for Ronda's downfall. And we're kind of seeing history repeat itself. I alluded to it earlier with him getting losing focus because he's got too much going on that has nothing to do with fighting. Boxing being one, that's not MMA fighting. This whiskey, like you said, the kids, and then all of those antics. And I might have mentioned this before the last time that we got together, and we got to do this more often. I've never ever in my life done hardcore drugs. That I promise that on everything, but I've been around a lot of people that are on, meth and cocaine, and he looks to me like somebody who's on cocaine. If I'm honest, I don't have any proof. A lot of people have said that. Yeah. I've never heard it confirmed, but I'm just telling you, in my life experience, that's what it looks like to me.
There was a couple of clips that I've seen where he's just acting funny. Even like a few years ago, I think it was at the Aldo fight, where he's just sitting there at the presser and his mouth is going crazy, his eyes are going all, and you don't know like what's really going on, like he's cutting weight and this and that. But like I totally 100% see what you're saying.
Completely insane too. But yeah, I think, I mean, because you talk about the erratic behavior and just the lack of inhibition. I mean, to fly from Ireland to go to Brooklyn just to go on that rampage as he did. again, doesn't excuse anything that happened last night, but I'm not surprised, motherfuckers, if I can quote Diaz.
So listen, what do you think is next for Conor now that he has this loss? I don't really want to see a rematch with Khabib Nurmagomedov. I don't think that it's going to slow Conor down at all. He's still one of the biggest is the biggest face in the UFC without a doubt. There was talk of him fighting GSP, Anderson Silva, and that's like what Conor's role is. It's like the next big thing. You also have, let's not forget, the 165-pound division that is in talk. What's your thought there? Let's start with that.
Yeah. When I was at the press conference the other day, Khabib left early, like you mentioned. However, he did get asked about from the media about that, and he endorsed it, which I thought was huge because I think John Morgan or somebody asked, and Dana White tried to step on Khabib's answer and shut it down. Well, he was all for it. And then somebody asked Conor the same thing, and he actually articulated a really good answer. You have to check out the video to, I can't quote him in full, but because he talked about it at length. I've been saying it for many, many years. Joe Rogan has been saying it. Every single fighter on the roster has been saying it. That's a whole other thing. But as far as Conor's next move, Aaron Bronstetter from TSN had posted on Twitter this morning that he would like to see the Nate Diaz Part 3, the rubber match. I think that makes it for win or lose for Nate Diaz. I think because if Diaz, let's say that Diaz beats Dustin Poirier, I don't see that happening. But if he does, he's still not going to be deserving of a title shot because you got Tony there, and if Conor really wanted to campaign for it, he might be able to get it. I'm with you, though. I don't want to see an immediate rematch. I think Conor got beaten up too badly. He needs to have another fight. So I think Nate Diaz Part 3 would be good. Or even Dustin Poirier. A rematch with Poirier would be great because Poirier is on an absolute tear. Because the only thing I don't like about Nate Diaz 3 is that I could kind of see him maybe losing that one again. And then you're like, don't get me wrong, his stock is not going down at all, but if he were to lose again,
it would be 3 fights in a row with a boxing, Khabib, and then that one.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be good for his. Like I said, it wouldn't hurt his stock or his brand or certainly the money that he makes or his whiskey or any of that. But I think it would definitely kill his buzz for fighting. But again, is there a need for him to? He has nothing to prove by fighting Poirier. If I was Dustin, I would maybe campaign for that fight. If nothing else, Dustin could get a payday like he's never had because he certainly deserves it. The numbers for the pay actually came out. I saw somebody posted it on Twitter, and it was just. It's just abysmal. They made $17 million at the gate alone. Damn. $17 million. Now that those numbers don't even make sense. Now I've been saying that, and I'm sorry to go off on a sidebar here, but I have to say this. They said that it's sold out in minutes. Okay, I was there. I promise you, it was not sold out, and there were a lot of tickets that were available on StubHub for double the price of what they debuted. They came out with like $300, I think, for nosebleed seats. Okay. And those got sold out supposedly, but yet all the scalping companies had them for $600. I think there was some collusion. I have no proof. I'm investigating it. I would like to find out the truth, but I think that there was some collusion with UFC. Maybe they had a company do some straw purchasing so that they could make more money off of it because $17 million, even with the prices that they had, does not make sense if you do the math. So I'm working on that. Anyway, sidebar.
No, sorry. That's really interesting. Did you hear about the pay-per-view numbers? Did those come out? Or at least an estimate?
No, I have not heard that. I'm eagerly awaiting pay-per-view numbers, though, and I expect them to come out sometime this week, I guess. But I heard about the gate, and then when I saw the fighter pay, I was like, Aspen Ladd, she mauled
ran through
the former Invicta champion, and she won. She made $24,000. That included her win bonus. Because you show money, and if you win, you get more money. $24,000. Now do the math. This is almost the end of the year, probably the last time she fights this year. I don't know how many times she fought this year. I have to go and look, but that means I'm a working class, green collar, military guy that makes more money than a UFC fighter that's fighting on a pay-per-view card that made $17 million at the gate. And who knows how much on pay-per-view. It's crazy.
That's the saddest part. Like, you see these guys in the MLB, the NFL, the NBA making a lot of money. And it's just like the company's selling for what, a couple $1 billion, and there's still fighters that are fighting on the main card or these big pay-per-views that, because people forget, they have to pay for their coaching, the gym, they got to pay for all this stuff. And if you're only fighting once a year, that's why I was like kind of holding up about fighters going to Bellator, because you're probably only going to fight once a year if you go over to Bellator, unless you're a huge name. So yeah, that literally rubs me the wrong way as well. I feel like these fighters deserve a lot more. But getting back to what we were saying about Conor McGregor here, I really wonder, like, the hype is still there for the Nate Diaz trilogy.
Sure.
I was saying though, like, I like what Conor looked like at 155 pounds. He looked absolutely amazing against Eddie Alvarez. He looked like he could have possibly been in his prime. And we didn't get to see that last night. So I don't know. Max Holloway wants him to drop down back to 145. I don't think Conor's ever going to do that. I would like to see the Nate Diaz fight next, or Dustin Diamond. I think that's next, but is that going to motivate Conor is the thing. What's going to motivate Conor right now? Because I don't think he's going to fight Khabib next.
No, well, I don't know. I mean, it's the pattern seems to be Conor gets whatever he wants, and if that's what he wants, I'm sure he will get it. That's maybe not necessarily what the people want, but then again, do we ever actually know what we really want until it happens? So if he rematches him right away, am I going to tune in? Yes, of course, but I do think it won't go in Conor's favor. Now, he did say recently in an interview that, he's definitely going to rematch Nate Diaz. So I do think that is the one that makes sense. I think you go with that rematch. Again, even though I never liked that matchup in the first place for Conor, the first time they fought, I had a feeling that it was going to be a bad night for him. I said that publicly many times. And but yeah, I agree. I think that's what happens. So, but yeah, gosh, it's just poor Dustin though. I don't know what I don't know what you do with him, because for me, I didn't like Tony having to take a fight against a guy that was ranked so much lower that hasn't done well in many years. In Pettis, the poor guy, man, he's not Showtime anymore, man. It was a fun fight. He showed a lot of heart, but Tony is arguably the rightful champion. He's definitely the rightful number one contender.
Let's jump into that, because it's interesting. Tony was the interim champ in a lot of people's book. He was the actual champ until he was stripped. So you also have Showtime going into this fight. He's trying to get his momentum back, and he looked great. That's the one thing about MMA. You can never make like good predictions, because you never know what's going to happen. It looked like he had the mental swagger back. He had a great win a couple of months ago on the DC versus Stipe card, and this would have been huge to get him back in the place. But I agree with you there. It was just like, even though Tony was coming back from an injury, a lot of people were saying that could go into it. You could tell Tony was he was so emotional in there. That fight was so great. Showtime, he didn't look half bad, but I like the call that the coaches made with ending the fight. Duke in the corner, he was like, man, we need you to have that hand. We can't have you continue this fight. And then Tony just broke down in tears when he found out that he won. I want to see Tony versus Khabib next. I know that people are going to get mad about it because it's been falling through 4 times, but that is the fight to make. That fight is the number one right there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That is the fight. And you know what? Hey, why not this? Why not do that fight? And why not do either DP or Nate Diaz, most likely Diaz, for the 165-pound belt? Everybody's happy. I don't see what the problem is with that. But absolutely, man. Tony, gosh, man, talk about a guy who's just, keeps getting screwed over, man.
Yeah, he's ran into a lot of bad luck. Another fight on this card that I really enjoyed was Derek Lewis. I'm going to skip over the OSP fight unless you really wanted to talk about it. But that one went to decision for Hayes. But Derek Lewis, man, he was getting pieced up in this fight. Volkov looked phenomenal. last 10 seconds of the fight, Derek Lewis, you can never count this guy out. It reminded me of the Travis Brown fight a lot, where it's like he was having a really tough time in the first round and then faced the adversity and just snap back. We've seen him do it in a couple of fights, Derek Lewis.
And then he gets on the mic and he just kills it. I mean,
really
and that's a part of it. That is a part of it. You have to get in there to win fights. You have to win impressively. You have to beat the best guys, but you have to have a good personality. So he's got the total package as far as that goes, as far as appeal, because he's great on social media. He's great on the mic, and he's just a lovable dude. And I'm a Texan, so of course, again, I was there as a fan, so I was allowed to pull from my my fellow Texan. And this is what we live for as fans, as people who love the sport, who cover the sport, such as you and I do. We're still fans at heart. And this is what we live for. And you rarely see that, man. I mean, yeah, there were shades of the Travis Brown fight, but the fact that it happened in the last 10 seconds made me feel like it wasn't going to happen, because I'm sitting there going, like, for example, at the end of round 2, what I saw in his corner, I saw a broken man. I saw a guy that I had it totally wrong. I felt that he had given up and that he was mentally broken, that he was out of the fight. And I don't know what the hell, because again, I couldn't hear the broadcast. I don't know what his corner, but whatever it was, they lit a fire under his ass because he tried to finish. And again, that is what we live for. That is what Dana White and the UFC brass loves. That's what the fans love. And I lose so much respect for fighters that get in there and just try to win. I'm not saying that his opponent did that, but I'm saying obviously other people do. Derek Lewis went into that third round knowing he was losing the fight. And so many times we see guys do that and they don't just go for broke. They don't take the risk. And I just scream at the TV and I go, look, you're down 2 rounds already. You are going to lose this fight. The only way you can win is to finish. So fuck caution, throw it out the window, and just go after this motherfucker and try to win. And goddamn, that knockout was nasty, man. He almost knocked his head clean off.
He really did. It landed beautifully flush. And
for him to still have that much punching power in the third round when he was clearly extremely exhausted, man, fucking A. Raise one for the Black Beast.
You know, and I'm looking at the stats here. For total strikes, Volkov had double. He had 183, landed 133 of 183. Derek Lewis landed 40 out of 71. Like, Volkov was putting out a lot.
Jeez. Yeah, he was fucking piecing him up, man. There was a couple times when I thought he's about to just unleash and finish him.
Even in the first round, he had Lewis covering up.
Yeah. Yeah, he had him. I mean, he had him on the ropes, man. Hypothetically speaking, he had him on the ropes, hurt, just wailing on him, and he stayed in there. And he was so exhausted. I mean, he's just carrying around so much weight. He's such a massive, massive dude. And I've even seen, despite all the other mainstream attention that the post-fight, brawl has been getting, I saw a couple things come out for Derek Lewis, and that made me smile. For example, Chris Pratt, the actor from Jurassic, fucking Guardians of the Galaxy. It was funny. There's a picture of him like cheering, and some asshole on Twitter was like, "It's like this is Chris Pratt right after Khabib jumped into the crowd," and he quoted the tweet, and he got like fucking hundreds of thousands of likes and retweets and whatnot. And he said, actually, no, I don't advocate for, unprovoked violence. He's like, this was me cheering during Derek's performance.
And you know what? What's next for Derek Lewis? Because he's the number 2 contender right now. His only loss has been to Mark Hunt. You got Stipe there. And would you be interested in seeing that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely want to shout out to my girl, actually, my homegirl, Madeline. Dr. Madeline Trillian, she was up tailgating at the Browns game and ran into Stipe today and got a good photo with him and sent it to me. That was really cool. That one I'm into. If you heard the post-fight interview with him, Joe Rogan talked about title contendership and of course, again, Black Beast killed it on the mic, and he was just like, "Fuck, what you talking about? I ain't ready for that shit."
Yeah,
At least he's honest.
I forgot he
But-
was talking about that.
But yeah, you know what, man? I'll be honest. Did he ever fight Fabricio? I think he did.
I believe he was supposed to fight Fabricio Verdum.
Last year, I was there. Yes, UFC 216. You're right, because he ended up fighting a last minute replacement. Fabricio did. I'll tell you what, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see him smash Verdum because. Well,
Verdum's out. He's got like a 2-year suspension.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
You also got Curtis Blades.
Yeah, that's a good one. So let me tell you real quick. I haven't really talked about this too much publicly either, but last weekend when I was covering Bellator, Fabricio Verdum was there to cover corner Vanderlei Silva, and I was waiting in front of at media day. I was waiting in front of Rampage Jackson's chair. I had my mic sitting on his chair. I had my camera set up. John Morgan from MMA Junkie was next to me, waiting for Rory McDonald. Yeah, Dallas guy too. So I was posted up there, and I was like, look, I'm doing my due diligence. I'm talking to fucking Rampage first. I was here first. That's the deal. Well, there was a guy next to me that wanted to interview Verdum, and Fabricio, he's kind of a meathead, so he doesn't know any better. He grabbed my microphone because he thought it was the other guy's. And I you know me, dude. I mean, you've talked to me enough to know I'm a nice dude. I'm a very, very nice guy. I'll give you the shirt off my back. That's the type of guy I am, even if I don't know you. And the guy told him, he was like, "Oh no, that's not my microphone." And I put my hand out because, I'm being protective because I'm like, shit. When Rampage gets here, God damn it, I'm ready and I'm interviewing him.
Yeah.
Like you can't be all up in my shit. But I wasn't rude, and I certainly wasn't. I didn't get an attitude. Well, I held out my hand to get my microphone, and I took it, and then and Fabricio Verdum tried to punk me. Swear to God.
What do you mean?
He goes, he looks at me and he's like, what? He's like, what's the problem? And I was like, what? He's like, no, just now you look like you got something to say, man. You got a problem? And I was like, no, man, no problem. I didn't back down either, though, because I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give a fuck how badass you are. I ain't fucking scared of you. And so I was like, no, man, we're cool. And I smiled, and he was like, and he kept talking shit. And that's when I remembered about his USADA thing. And I was like, he's acting like somebody who's roid raging right now. He's angry for no reason at all. And he was like, he kept on. And John Morgan was standing right next to me, and he was like, kind of like wide-eyed, like, what the fuck is going on with Verdum? And so he was like, what? He's like, you got something to say, man? You got a problem? I said, look, Fabricio, it's not a big deal, man. It's not a big deal. Thanks.
You picked up the wrong mic, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all.
Motherfucker, no. So obviously he's menacing. He's a very intimidating figure. But, he walked away, and then I turned and looked at John Morgan, and I was like, am I crazy? Like, did I do something? And he was like, no. He's like, no, dude. He's like, he's just like that. So he doesn't like MMA media, whatever. But I thought that was a funny little story, man. But yeah, I wouldn't mind. But you're right, he's out. But I wouldn't mind seeing somebody who's big enough to beat his ass. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
You know what? Honestly, looking through this card, there's one fight I really forgot about, and this was very impressive. Michelle Waterson versus Felice Herrig. That was a huge fight for that division. Michelle Waterson versus Felice Herrig, who are you picking there going into that one?
I'm so glad you asked, man, because I picked Michelle Waterson, and here's what I did. I was originally going to do a straight bet on her because she was an underdog, and I felt like, Felice Herrig is she's not that great. I mean, let's be honest, she's just not. I mean, she talked all that shit and got her ass whipped by Paige Van Zandt, got the brakes beat off her. She's done good in her last few, but she's definitely overrated. And I was like, this is crazy that they have her as a favorite. But what I did instead was I did a parlay bet on Gray Maynard, because I interviewed Gray Maynard. I don't know if you saw it, but I interviewed him like 2 days before the weigh-in. I interviewed him on Wednesday at the gym at Extreme Couture. And I don't know, I was just feeling his passion, and I was like, this is a good matchup for him. Nick Lentz. I think he's going to win this fight. So I did a parlay bet and relying on him to win. And I should have just done a straight bet on Michelle. So, yeah, I picked her. And I was not surprised by the outcome. The fight pretty much went exactly as I thought it would.
Obviously, that's kind of weird because Felice was coming off a loss before that as well. So now she's on a 2-fight losing streak moving forward. But Michelle Waterson, number 8 right now in that division, she's a natural atomweight. She's a tiny little girl. So I was definitely impressed with her last 2 fights. I mean, Courtney Casey before this is like twice the size of her. You know what I mean? So it's just like very impressive win for Michelle Waterson. Her last loss coming December of last year. What would be next for her? What are some matchups that you guys would like to see? Let us know on Twitter at evil_echo. And Rodney, what's your Twitter?
Okay. I've changed it.
I realize that, yeah.
Rogue One, just like the Star Wars movie. Rogue One 38. Rogue One 38.
So
it's Captain Gene Story, the financier for MMA Soldier, and the franchise.
Daddy!
What's
hey,
up,
buddy?
bud?
This is my twin, my mini me right here. This is my friend, Mr. Eddie. Say hello.
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 Say hello, Mr.
How are you still awake right now?
Yeah.
Cowboys are tied.
Cowboys are tied. I got the game on right here.
Yeah.
I've been paying attention though. Okay.
So listen, the next part that I really want to ask you, Little Pettis. Were you surprised with his loss to Formiga there? Because I think Pettis was on such a nice roll. He had good momentum building up. He was probably next in line for a title if he won. What was your reaction to Pettis versus Formiga?
Yeah, you're right. He probably was. But as Joe Rogan pointed out, after Formiga won, he said, "Look, you had a split decision against the current champion, Henry Cejudo. So you might be the guy." And yeah, it could have been Pettis. He looked good. He looked good initially, but yeah, I mean, Formiga's badass, so you can't be too surprised by the outcome. I was actually, if I'm honest, I think I was actually more surprised that Pettis did as good as he did. And there were definitely moments where he shined, where it looked like, okay, you know what, he might be able to take this one. He might be able to take this one if he can, if he can get some momentum going or even get a finish. But the tides turned, and it was obvious that, he was just getting overwhelmed, and, it's what happened.
I don't think this one sets him back too far. He's still one of the top contenders in the division. He's still learning. He's still a really young kid.
Great win over, Joe Benavidez recently, too.
That was his last fight.
Yeah, like you said, he's been doing great. So
he's a work in progress, is what it is.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing the kid. If you remember when he first got in the UFC, his initial run was kind of underwhelming, especially at the time because his brother was the baddest motherfucker on the planet, and like now, but it's kind of like there's kind of a role reversal in a way. It's like Pettis is kind of on his way out in terms of he's just taking too much damage. He's taking too much damage. I mean, how many times has he broken his fight now? Broken his hand.
Yeah, he did it in the Max Holloway fight. Cost him the entire thing.
Exactly, and he got banged up bad. I mean, we've seen him get banged up really bad in a few fights. So, love Pettis, but he'll never be the same. Let's be real. He loves to fight, so he'll still fight. But as far as Sergio goes, yeah, man, I'm high on that kid. UCA Formiga, I haven't really watched too many of his fights to be perfectly honest with you. I just know his reputation. I know his record. I know his resume. But I'm definitely, it definitely opened my eyes to him, going forward.
That's definitely his biggest win to date, I'd say. I mean, he's got a couple of losses, but the guys that he's lost to are actually, top contenders. So we'll see what's happening next for Formiga. We'll see what's happening next for Pettis. But one fight I really want to talk about, because before we get to the end of this podcast, Vicente Luque getting the win. He's another very underrated fighter. Where it's like, I understand that I think he popped for USADA like a couple years ago, and people got a little weird.
I didn't know that, but I'm very glad that you just told me, because I almost tweeted this, but then I decided, you know what? I need to get away from being a little too vulgar and blunt on social media, because there's so many social justice warriors that get their panties all twisted up in a knot and gets me into trouble. But when I almost tweeted when I saw him, oh, that poor guy. God, man. When I saw him bounce that guy's head off the canvas, I was about to tweet, Luque looks to me like he's on the juice. Because, brother, the way he came down with that vicious pounding, it was like 5 shots in a row, and like the second to last one like deaded the guy, but then after that, I mean, he just cracked him when he was already completely fucking out. And I thought, that's not natural. That looks like roids, man. I mean, that kind of aggression. I'm as aggressive as it gets. I could rip somebody's fucking face off at my most intense, but goddamn, that was like more evil intention than even Khabib doing ground and pound. It really was.
You know what? Honestly, his last couple of fights have been huge. Beating Nico Price, beating Chad LaPrise, now beating Turner. And I'm not too familiar with Turner's previous fights, but Vicente Luque, even what he was able to do on short notice against Bilal Muhammad at UFC 205 was very impressive. He doesn't get the pump that I feel like he deserves. We don't really know what's next. He's not even ranked yet, but I would like to see him fight a ranked opponent next, honestly.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. As a matter of fact, let's do a little matchmaking here. Mike Perry. Mike Perry comes to mind first straight away.
That would be sick.
I love Cowboy Cerrone, but again, I think he's kind of in almost he's near that sort of Pettis status. I mean, I think he could certainly win. But I just think his chin is so compromised at this point. I think he gets absolutely deaded by Mike Perry. I really do. But aside from that, let's see who else. Razak is in a lot of trouble right now. He's got some allegations that have come out. I'm sure you read about that. Razak Al Hassan, he's under some allegations for sexual assault, and they're really, really bad. Like, he's accused of rape.
Damn.
So, yeah. But I mean, let's let that play out. And if it turns out that it's that the allegations are false or whatever the case may be, that's a guy I would love to see fight Vincent Luque. Him or Mike Perry right now. Those are the 2 biggest guys that come to mind.
Let's see here. Yeah, there's a lot of guys at welterweight in the top 15 that I would like to see him fight. Even, let's see, Gunnar Nelson. I mean, Gunnar Nelson is number 14 right now. That might be a good scrap right there.
Yeah, that's a damn good one. Yeah, that's a damn good one. And I'm sure there's a few others, but yeah, I mean, right there, those 3, I think. Winner of Cowboy Mike Perry is definitely, or shit, the other Cowboy. How about that?
Oliveira.
Yeah. But oh my God, that would be it. Or Yancy Medeiros. Fuck.
Yeah.
There are a lot of them.
There's a lot of a good.
You're right. But he's on my radar now too, man. Because I mean, that was a huge eye opener. But God forbid, he's on something. Like I said, I have no proof, but I feel like he is. But he hadn't been caught, so who am I to say?
I mean, the Diaz brothers say it all the time. Everyone's on steroids. And I've heard a lot of fighters that I've done interviews say, like, there are ways to get by it. But I don't want to dive too deep into that. But, USADA, that's their job. Like, if they look at a lineup and they're like, that doesn't look right. And they'll go to the guy and they'll test him. That's, how they get caught. But moving forward here, Aspen Ladd versus Tanya Evinger. Before we end today's show, I think this is the last fight that we should talk about. Aspen Ladd, man, the work that she did against Tanya Evinger, who you're saying is former Invicta FC champion, she made it look easier than Chris Cyborg did.
Yeah. Oh my God, especially for her size. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because compared to Cyborg, I mean, she's tiny. And yeah, I was so surprised because the grappling is where she shined. That is where she outclassed Tanya Evinger. And I thought for sure, I'm like, if Tanya Evinger, has any chance to win this fight. In fact, I thought she would. I thought she would probably even dominate.
Me too.
And I thought it would be based on grappling. And that was where she got outclassed, and she got thoroughly beat down. She was absolutely thrashed. And again, that's when I turned to my wife and I go, you have no idea the significance of it. Like, that's the former Invicta champion. And Aspen Ladd made $24,000, by the way. Let's mention that again.
Did she get the fight of the night bonus? Is that what you were saying before? Because I didn't see who got the three bonuses.
No, she did not. No, I don't remember either. Shit, I think fight of the night, I think was Tony and Pettis. And then as far as it better have been Derek Lewis. Shit. I have to go back and look, but no, I don't think Aspen Ladd did. But yeah, she knows. Total, just 24 grand total, and unbelievable.
Before we rate this pay-per-view, one last note on Aspen Ladd, because we are talking about it. She did have some difficulty, making weight. She is a little bit heavier. She's fighting at 135. Maybe she could make 145. What would you think about that? What would you think about her fighting somebody like Chris Cyborg? I don't really want to see it, but when I tweeted that out this morning, a whole shit ton of people jumped down and were like, that sounds interesting.
I wouldn't like to see her jump. If she did go up in weight, I wouldn't like to see her go right into that fight. I'd rather see, but I mean, there's not a whole lot of girls to choose from. I mean, I guess Holly Holm, but then again, I don't know. I look at the matchups and I just think, I don't know. I don't think she matches up really, really well, particularly with any of them. So maybe Durandame.
That would be a good one, too. I've been dying to see JDR come back. I interviewed JDR before the Holly Holm fight, and she's such a lovely soul. She got such a bad rap after that fight. And we can dive into that another time, but, man, just that one fight changed her entire life for the worse. And it should have been the best moment of her life. Ends up being, one of the most regretful things of her life. Just pretty upsetting.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, we could dive into. Maybe next time she fights, we could talk about that more. But yeah, man, whatever you want, man. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. And I gotta say, before we cut out of here, I got a couple things I wanted to mention. First of all, I'm a big fan of Evil Eddie.
Thank you.
You are you're doing it, man. You're doing a lot of really good original stuff, and I love that. I love the passion, I love the fire behind it, and I'm definitely. Especially if you ever come to Las Vegas, man, you're more than welcome. My house is open to you, and my studio, of course, whatever you need to do. But I'm gonna pick your brain because there's a few things that you're doing with the graphics and everything that I need you to teach me how to do. I really like what you're doing. So shout out to Evil Eddie, man, one of the hardest working, just like me, dude. One of the in the trenches, on the front lines. Not getting your proper respect and getting your due credit for all the hard work. So
I really appreciate that because, man, I wake up every day excited, motivated. It just feels like Christmas every day I wake up, just waiting to find out what MMA news. But really quick, before we end today's show, I really think it's proper to end it by rating this card out of 10. 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. And you got to remember, let's rate this two different ways. Let's rate this as a UFC pay-per-view, and then let's also rate it as a Conor McGregor pay-per-view. For a Conor McGregor pay-per-view, what do you rate it? Because this didn't seem up to par with some of the other ones to me.
Yeah, no, for a Conor McGregor pay-per-view, it was great. It was great. Which rhymes with 8. And that's what I'm going to say. I'll give it an 8, man. I'll give it. I mean, because it was good. I mean, it was definitely good. The money speaks for itself. The fight week, I think, factors into because that was amazing. There were missed opportunities, especially like when they did the first press conference, which wasn't fight week, but the press conference where they didn't have a crowd was completely fucking weak. And then the press conference when Khabib didn't stay around, it was just kind of a missed opportunity. However, the overall card itself, and then with Conor, I mean, the fight was good. For Khabib's end, of course, it was a good fight. Definitely not as good as it could have been, as we've seen Conor. So yeah, an 8. And then overall, even though Dominic Reyes looked good, and he's another guy that's on my radar, I was very impressed with. And the Karate Hottie Felice Herrig fight, both of those kind of brought the average down, I think. Because, I mean, let's be honest, those fights were pretty shitty. I mean, as far as you want people to bring it, and that neither one of them really did that. So I give it a 9 for the actual pay-per-view itself.
Yeah, I think the
It
pay-per-view
was
did
excellent.
pretty well. There were a lot of finishes, which I definitely think helped. There was a lot of little moments outside of the fights too, like the speeches that Derek Lewis had, what happened in the co-main event. This is the last question. What was your pick for fight of the night? What was your favorite fight on the entire card?
Yeah, fight of the night, without a doubt, Tony Ferguson and Anthony Pettis. God damn, that was amazing. Like, I mean, Jesus. I mean, was there one single aspect of that fight besides a proper finish? But I don't think anybody would complain about the way that it was finished. You know, I mean, you talked about Tony's emotionality. You talked, about the injury with Pettis. So the way it ended was not controversial, and there certainly in the audience there was no booing or any of that going on. I didn't really even see anybody on Twitter, which surprise, surprise. They usually are pretty vocal. I didn't see anybody complain about the way it finished. So that's the one. As far as performance of the night, KO of the night, gotta be Derek Lewis,
It has
man.
to be.
Holy shit.
Without a doubt.
There's a moment, man. 10 seconds left. When does that ever happen? Almost never. I mean, you have to go back years to find
Chris
a fight
Cyborg versus Gina Carano. Last second of the fight, she takes out Gina Carano. But yeah, man, this is what we like to do at the end of the show. If you have tags, sponsors, anything at all, the floor is all yours, Rodney.
I do. I have some sponsors, and I wrote them down right here in my Las Vegas Raiders notebook, so I wouldn't forget. I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsor, North American Rescue, NorthAmericanRescue.com. We are a company that facilitates first responder training, tactical casualty combat care training for military and first responders. And we also have a variety of products on there for first responder training, like stopping the bleeding with cat tourniquets, etc., things like that. So check out North American Rescue. It's a veteran-owned and operated company that services the military. Clark County Shooting Complex. If you're ever in Las Vegas, you know how to find me. Hit me up through MMA Soldier. My email is on there. You can hit me up on social media. Clark County Shooting Complex is not too far from Starfate Studios, where I'm reporting to you live right now. I'll definitely hook you up there. And, of course, the U.S. Army Reserve keeps me afloat here. So be all you can be. U.S. Army Reserve. Go Army.
And thank you so much for your service and dedication to the sport and the country.
It is my pleasure, sir, and thank you for saying that. KO Candy Services, that's owned by Tom Galicchio,
Yes.
former UFC fighter.
You still do the show with
KO
him?
Candy Services on Instagram. He's one of my sponsors. I love Tom. Shout out to Tom and KO Candy Services at MMA Soldier 138. That's where you can find me. That's where you can find my content, MMA Soldier. Dude, you're the man, Eddie.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. That was a really good recap of UFC 229. Hopefully we connect before the next Khabib fight, because this was definitely a pleasure.
Yeah, no, we definitely need to connect before the next 6 months, like the last time. But I'm definitely checking out everything you're doing, and I'm digging it. And man, we'll stay in touch, dude.
Same here. Thank you so much, everybody. Rodney James Edgar. Have a great night, Rodney.
Cheers.
Cheers.
You too. Yeah.
There we go. I mean, do you guys realize how many people out there bought Conor McGregor's whiskey? I feel like every media member this week has posted pictures of the proper 12 whiskey. Now, I kind of feel left out. You can't get it at the liquor store. I went to multiple liquor stores asking them, even if they knew about it. They had no idea. That thing would be off the shelves. That is honestly Conor McGregor's way out. He's going to make more money with the whiskey than he's going to make anywhere else. Absolutely genius. And now the UFC sponsors it. So he's also in bed with the UFC, just like he called. Conor McGregor is now part of the UFC actual company, with them sponsoring the whiskey. But guys, let me know what you thought about today's show. That was a really awesome talk that we just had with Rodney. I really enjoy his company, and he has a really keen eye for the small details. And I think that's very important in journalism. I have respect for the cookie cutter journalists out there. I respect what they're doing. I'm friends with a lot of them, I'd say. But there are the journalists out there that actually are different. They're not cookie cutters. They have their own personality. They actually ask the questions that people want to hear. And it might rub promotions the wrong way sometimes, might rub fighters the wrong way sometimes. But hey, Ariel has done it. Luke Thomas has done it. And look where they're at. I'm tired of the cookie cutter. Anybody can be a cookie cutter journalist, which is why I get mad. Like, there are people out there being like, oh, you shouldn't do this. Don't do this when you're at a show. And I really appreciate, people who have been in the game, doing their interviews, working at big websites, hitting me up, telling me, give me a little pointers. But, man, I'm not going to be another cookie cutter journalist that just gets lost in the shuffle. That's not the purpose here. And Rodney is another guy that stands out. The second I saw Rodney was on UFC presser, gets the microphone, asks the best questions we've ever heard at the press conference. Comfortable talking to the big superstars like John Bones, Brock, whatever. Big shout out to Rodney, man. I really enjoy it. Go check out his content. Guys, I'm Evil Eddie from Pure EVil MMA, MyMMAnews.com. Make sure to subscribe down below. If you are watching this on YouTube, hit that notification bell. Every time we go live and you hit that notification bell, it will let you know. For some reason, if you just subscribe, it doesn't let you know. It's YouTube's just dirty like that for some reason. Also, guys, on Instagram, at Pure Evil MMA _, and then on Twitter, at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. We have new merch dropping at teespring.com. I will be posting that link. New design, the Halloween logo. Wait till you guys see this. Also, James McSweeney and I have a podcast together from Ultimate Fighter Season 10, UFC veteran. He's coming off a fight this weekend against another UFC vet, Thiago Silva. So we're going to be catching up with him, ask him about his fight, how he enjoyed it. Coming up this week on episode 6 of Gloves Off. You guys can subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, YouTube, Podomatic, Player FM. We're all over the place. We are here to take over. That's what we're here for, guys. But nonetheless, we got a whole bunch of new content out, so make sure you check some of that out. I'm Evil Eddie from Pure Evil MMA, MyMMAnews.com. Guys, white knuckles till the end. Behave yourselves.